Okay, that's fine. Okay. Um, First of all, I want to say thanks to Kerry and Steve Kirchhoff, if either of you are out there listening in for informing Heidi and I about this challenge. It's probably been around for a while. I remember going out and hiking in the state parks and seeing these strange little blue signs out there, thinking, and they said hiking club, and I thought, well, it must be a local organization that has a hiking club, and that's why these are out there. But it's not. It's a statewide effort to acquaint all Minnesotans with the beauty of the many parks that we have actually in the area. If you jot down the URL at the bottom of the page, which is kind of long, or if you simply Google Minnesota State Parks Trails Hiking Club, it's pretty easy to find information online about the challenge. The challenge is this. It's pretty simple. Of the 72 or 74 parks that are in the state of Minnesota, 68 of them have designated trails that the DNR has planned out and has marked and has all the signs up there for. The way that you prove that you've actually hiked each of the trails that have been designated in each of the parks is that there is a password in somewhere along the trail. One of the things that Heidi and I enjoy doing is trying to guess where the password will be, and it's usually somewhere in the middle of the hike. I'm willing to actually sell the passwords, but no, I'm not really. But they are kind of fun. There are a lot of parks in the state of Minnesota. I had no idea there were so many state parks before I accepted this challenge. Like I said, there are about 72, and they're pretty well distributed throughout the state, as you can see by this map. The furthest park away from us is probably up at Bronson or Zipple Bay, which my Google Maps is correct, is about 6.5 hour drive away. Of those, we've done about 56. Yeah, I think we have 56 done, and we have 12 more to go. We have the parks in the far northwest and the parks in the far southwest yet to do. We've been tackling this challenge for about the last 2 years. We started in June of 2019, and we've found that it's really a good challenge during the pandemic, because if you're like us and you really like to travel, but it seems rather foolish to take extensive trips. You can't go to other countries. You can't do a lot of traveling. We've still been able to travel safely to a lot of our state parks. We often stay overnight in Airbnbs or in places where we're not in crowded conditions. This little map shows how we've been able to visit these parks, kind of visiting in chunks. For example, we just were over on the far west part of the state a couple of weeks ago. So the parks that are highlighted in gray over there are the ones that we took 3 or 4 days. We stayed overnight in Ortonville. We stayed overnight in Pelican Rapids for 2 or 3 nights, and during those 4 or 5 days, we were able to hike 5 or 6 different parks. And we did this up on the Iron Range. We did this up on the North Shore. We did this down in the southeastern part of the state as well, too. And there are others. Of course, a lot of the parks, as you could tell, are within fairly easy driving distance of the Twin Cities. Last weekend or the weekend before, we went over and did what were the parks?
Monson and Sibley.
Monson and Sibley parks, which were what, 2.5 hours away?
Correct.
So we were able to drive the 2.5 hours, hike the 2 parks, and then drive back, all pretty easily on a Saturday. You can see Monson and Sibley are right down here. So The trails themselves in the parks are range from anywhere from 1 mile to 6.2 miles. The average hike is around three miles. Um, as you can see, you are treated to quite a lovely a variety of different kinds of foliage and geographical features, and we'll talk more about that as we go through some of the individual parks. The way you get started really is by picking up a booklet. I'm not exactly sure how you get it now. You get it by mail, but we bought ours when the state park offices were actually open. You can just stop at the visitor center and buy the hiking club packet. It's a little mesh bag that includes a booklet and I think a map and anything else.
I think just the booklet.
The booklet and the map, yeah. And I think it cost, what was it, $12, $14?
14,
14, yeah. It was less than $15 anyway. And this is the tool that you use to keep track of your hikes, as you can see. The other thing the booklet includes is a short description of each one of the parks, telling usually where the hiking trail begins, some things to look for on the trail, and of course the length of the hike as well too. I tend to jot down the date that I hiked the trail in my booklet as well, so you can see that the booklet is a tool that I actually use. These are just scans of the pages. They also have a checklist. They have a place to record some of the memories that you may have of an individual hike. Heidi uses that feature. I tend not to. And then it has a map of where all the parks are located to help sort of plot out your plan of attack. As you visit the parks, you'll of course want more detailed information about where the hikes might be. I'm going to turn on my rocket feature here, I think. If you look at this map of Split Rock, is it Split Rock?
I think so.
Yeah. You'll see that one of the trails here is shaded. And it's that shaded trail on the maps that are the hiking club trail. And it will say that.
No, it's not Split Rock, but that's okay.
It's not okay. Okay, well, maybe, whatever. But the point is that if you look at these maps, you can either download these one-sided or one-page, two-sided maps, either online, or you can pick them up usually at the park entrance as well too. And they're very happy to have in hand. Do note that with most state parks, or many state parks, there's both a summer map and a winter map. The summer map is the one that you want for the hiking trails. The winter map shows primarily trails that have been groomed for cross-country skiing, and they will be closed then for hiking during the winter. I would say that this is really a three-season activity, spring, summer, and fall. We have found that the trails are not really very passable in the winter, and we don't do a lot of hiking for the challenge during the winter. The flip side of the map, this is Gooseberry Falls, sorry, what did I say, Split Rock? Gooseberry. We'll give you some information about the trails that are in the park, some visitor tips and things like that too. And again, you can both download these brochures, these pages from the DNR website, or you can pick them up when you go into the trail, into the park itself. Now, one of the things that I would highly advise is to either get a yearly pass or a state park license plate. Heidi and I both have state park license plates. What that means is that in addition to paying your regular license plate fee, you pay an extra $50, which is a little bit more than just getting the sticker that goes on the windshield of your car. But the additional money, which is $15 or something like that, does go to the state, the Department of Natural Resources to keep the trails up. So we think it's a nice way to support the parks. But it's very cool because you just sort of cruise right into the park. You don't have to worry about stopping at the center, buying passes. And if you visit, say, more than 3 parks during the year, you've more than made your money back. So we're not going to talk about every trail, of course, because we wouldn't have the time to do that. You'd be here till midnight tonight. But I'm going to show you a picture. We're going to show you a picture that I think sort of represents each of the parks we visited, and we'll stop at maybe about a dozen of them to talk about some of the things we may have liked about it. If any of you have a particular park that you are especially fond of and you think others might want to know about, please be sure and chime in. So with that, off we go. Again, these photographs are all ones that I've taken. These are originals and not off of any kind of a website.
Split Rock was the first hike we took after we picked up our booklets. It's a 5.8 mile hike. And there are 2 parks in Minnesota that have Split Rock in their title. And we're most familiar with the one with the lighthouse. But there is another one called Split Rock Creek in southwest Minnesota. We haven't been there yet. This was a long, narrow loop. And the first part was parallel to Highway 61. But the second part was along the lake, and it was lovely, and we saw lots of the walk-in campsites.
Jay Cook. Minneopa is one of my favorite state parks. It's just a little bit south and west of Mankato, where I spent much of my my professional career. One of the things that I like about the Minneopa Park, it's divided into 2 sections. It has a falls section, but then it also has what I call the buffalo section, which is a little bit north of it. Minneopa is one of the 2 parks that have bisons grazing there. And as you can see from this picture, it's not unusual to get up right close to them when you're out hiking. Now, what you don't see in this photo is that there is a fence between you and the bison, which is good. Going in the spring is a great time because the calves are there and they're fun to look at. There's also an old mill there, and it's right along the river, so it's really quite a beautiful place to visit. And it's a very nice day trip from the Twin Cities area. Landrail's down by New Ulm, for originally down by New Ulm. Carly's down in the south. Whitewater's another one of my favorite parks. I think Mike Olson turned me onto this park a number of years ago. Whitewater is one of the few state parks you're going to find no mosquitoes because there's only running water in the park. The river runs through that. If you like the challenge of hills, the stairs, and great overlooks, Whitewater is a wonderful park to do. Again, it's a very doable day trip from the Twin Cities, a little bit longer drive than some, but still a very pretty area, kind of down between Rochester and Winona, if I remember.
Oh, one thing I'll say about Lake Louise, it's a very short hike. It was only 1 mile, but it was very mosquito-y, when we were there during the summer.
Very buggy.
We pretty much ran that 1 mile. Beaver Creek Valley is the most southeastern park in Minnesota. This is a 6.2 mile hike, but it's in 2 parts. And it's like 2 separate hikes. The one part is up in the bluffs, and it's a little bit challenging. And then the other one is along the creek, and it's a very easy hike. I suggest doing the bluffs first.
Forestville Mystery. I like this picture because it does show a little bit about the challenge of hiking in the spring. Minnesota tends to be pretty wet in the spring with snow melt and things. So if you decide to hike any of these trails in the spring, make sure that your footwear and your other clothing is adaptable to mud. We did find, I think, at least one closed trail in one of the parks because of very high water. So you have to be a little careful about that. Afton, many of us know about Afton because it's close to us. Near Strand is another one of my favorites. Again, just a little bit south of tell me what the name of the town.
Oh, I can't remember. The Archer House Hotel is there.
It's not New Prague.
It's the
Northfield?
Northfield,
Yes.
thank you. Yeah,
Northfield.
well, that's an old person's brain fart there. Sorry about that. Yeah, just south of Northfield. Again, it's a very nice park for a day trip. Beautiful little falls, nice a variety of both woodlands and prairies down there as well too. And the advantage is either on the way down or on the way back, you can stop at the Ole store for some very good food near St. Olaf College. It was interesting because we went to hike this park one time this spring and the parking lot was full. So it tends to be a very popular park, and we find that if we get to the parks early in the day, we tend to have better luck and fewer crowds than waiting till late in the morning or in the afternoon. Well, Bryan's nice and close. Fort Snelling, of course, is right in the heart of the cities. Great River Bluffs.
Great River Bluffs is near Winona. This is a 2.5-mile hike, and there are 2 bluffs there. You hike up to Kings Bluff, and then you can look across at Queens Bluff. I think they're doing research on Queens Bluff, and you don't have access to it, but it's a very pretty hike overlooking the Mississippi River.
And as you can see, we did this one kind of in the early spring.
Yes.
Yeah. Frontenac, of course, is fairly close to us as well too, and many of us have hiked there. Wild River, Interstate up on the Wisconsin border. Rice Lake down south of us. Nice signage there. Lake Mariah, not too far away. Minnesota Valley Recreation Area. It took quite a while for us to get to this one because the park and the route was underwater for a lot of last summer. Meyer Big Island down near Albert Lee. Moose Lake up north. Banning.
Banning, you see the signs for this as you're driving up to Duluth. It could do this as a day trip from the Twin Cities. We were there in the spring when the trillium were blooming, and trillium are kind of rare in Minnesota. They're on the DNR special concern species list. We were there in late May. And one thing that's nice about Banning is you see a lot of the quarry ruins, and it's along the Kettle River.
Beautiful, beautiful park. One of my favorites too. St. Croix Park, Gooseberry Falls. This one's a little bit different because you go out toward Lake Superior as opposed to going inland on along the river where most people hike. Sierra Magni, Grand Portage. Temperance River has always been one of my very favorite places to hike, and the Minnesota, the DNR Hiking Club hike is no different. Absolutely gorgeous in terms of the falls and the drama of the river that flows through there. I just have hiked that area many times and have enjoyed it each time that I've been there. If you like that natural water running, it's probably the best park up along the North Shore to hike. The Goosh, up the North Shore. George H. Crosby Manitou, Heidi's favorite.
Well, actually, it's not. That's the trail on the right. This was a very rugged hike. And when you drive up along the North Shore, you know, it's just one state park after another, and George H. Crosby Manitou is one of them when you look at the map. But you actually have to drive quite a ways from Highway 61 to get to this park. And some of it is on dirt road. Well, often it's on a dirt road to get to one of the state parks. But this was a challenging one, and I wouldn't go back there. I mean, I'm glad, I'm just letting you know. I'm glad we went there, because it was part of the hiking club challenge. And that's one of the fun things about the challenge is we're getting to see places that we wouldn't normally go to.
Yeah. And this trail is the exception. This rugged trail where you actually have to scramble. Most of the state park trails are pretty easy. There may be some ups and downs, but there's very little scrambling that one has to do. South Lake up by Itasca and Itasca Park.
Oh, one thing about Itasca is that in the summer it is really buggy.
That's true. Savannah Portage, Lake Bemidji, lots of boardwalks on that one. Very, very interesting. Schoolcraft, McCarthy Beach, Scenic. This is
Bearhead Lake State Park. We did a trip up on the Iron Range. We incorporated a bike ride along with this hiking trip. Bearhead Lake State Park near Ely is just a 3.3-mile hike. It's easy, but it's very pretty. And one thing we learned about this park is that in 2010, it won a $100,000 grant in America's Favorite Parks. It's an online contest, and I can see why it would be a favorite park. And we have always wanted to see a bear while we're out hiking, and we did not see a bear hiking in Bearhead Lake State Park, but as we were driving out of the park, a bear crossed the road in front of us.
So why did the bear cross the road? We'll just leave that one. Also up on the Iron Range Lake Vermilion Sudan Underground Mine Park. Kylene Woods is back down in the south. Lindbergh near Little Falls. We took a trip to that area, the Little Falls area. Crow Wing is a beautiful park along the Mississippi River. One of the things I liked about Crow Wing, and it's not evident from this picture, is that many of the state parks have historical buildings and historical ruins that show some of the early days of the trappers and the settlers. And Crow Wing was one of those. There is still a little remnants of an old town, an old settlement there, a settlement, not sediment, settlement along this park. So if you like history, if you like geology, there are just a lot of good reasons to visit some of these parks. Blue Mounds, that's another place, of course, where they have the bison. I've always found the bison more difficult to see in Blue Mounds because the area is much bigger. Glacial Lakes was surprisingly a wonderful park for me. So many of these parks do have very intriguing geographical formations like these mounds that you see here that were a residue of glacial action many years ago. And there is signage and there's information about how these different formations came to be. I really like it when you have a variety of different geographical features in the park, and Glacial Lakes was certainly that way. Big Stone, where the Minnesota River begins, Lake Carlos, Glendalough.
In Maplewood, we were there in October, 3 or 4 weeks ago. I think the time you visit the parks makes a difference, perhaps a huge difference in your experience there, but it was absolutely golden. This was a 6.2-mile hike, and you didn't mind spending 6.2 miles in this park. It's in west central Minnesota, near Pelican Rapids, and we had an interesting stay in a tiny house, an Airbnb tiny house, which was only about 10 minutes away from the park. It was a nice location for accessing several of the West Central state parks.
It is a gorgeous park, especially in the fall. Buffalo River, they call this an errant boulder or something like that.
Yeah,
something left.
Sibley State Park, which we just visited last week or the week before. What I liked about this park is it was up and down the whole time. And we went up and down, up to something called Mount Tom. And we kept wondering the whole trip, I wonder why it's called Mount Tom, T-O-M. And when we got there, they explained that they had no idea why it was called Mount Tom.
It's the highest point in 60 miles around. So it's quite the accomplishment there. And then the last part that we visited is Monson Lake, and we just did that on the very end of last month as well too. Just a few bits of advice here, and then we'll be happy to take questions or comments. Be sure that before you just take off and drive a lot of hours to go hike a park, that you check online and if you can, check with rangers about trail conditions every once in a while, because of high waters in the spring or for some other reasons. Trails can be closed, and it's disappointing to make a big effort to get to a place, then find out that you can't actually hike the trail. Bring a map, and we'd like to bring a highlighter to plot the route out as well too. If you're hiking again, especially in the spring, bring dry shoes and socks rather than having to drive back in wet footwear. I think it's interesting. After hiking, I've hiked a lot in Afton, and I've hiked a lot in Frontenac, and I've hiked a lot in different parks. And I found that the hiking club trails are not always the best trails in the park. I don't know why the DNR always has chosen the hiking trails that they have. But if you have the time and you have the ability to explore other parts of the parks, sometimes some of the other trails also offer a lot of interesting things to see and do as well too. As Heidi commented on the one, what was the park? The two
Beaver Creek.
Yeah, Beaver Creek. If there are two parts, always do the hard part first. It's not always easy to figure out which is the hard part, but we always debate whether there is a correct route on these loop trails, whether we show clockwise or counterclockwise. Sometimes it seems like all the points, the signs are urging you to go one direction, and sometimes it doesn't seem to make any difference whatsoever. Speaking of signage in the parks, many of the parks are wonderfully well signed. Other parks, it's a little bit more challenging to find your way, and that's why it's good to have the map. Bring bug repellent during the spring and summer, and again, get the annual pass, whether that's a sticker for your dashboard or whether that's a license plate. It's good to have the pass. So we have done 56. So we've got 12 left to go. We'll probably finish those up early next summer. So with that, we're happy to take any questions, or we'd love to hear comments.
I have a question I'm going to sneak in. Are there prizes or patches? Are there prizes?
Yes. Every 25 miles, you can claim a patch, and after 100 miles, you can get a free night of camping. And we've gone over 100 miles now, but we haven't claimed anything yet, mostly because the ranger stations are closed.
I just wanted to make one quick comment about the winter hiking. That in the winter, the state parks, while the trails are often impassable with normal hiking boots, they're a great place to go. Even if you don't have skis, if you've got snowshoes or yak tracks, still a great place to visit, though those hiking club trails might be dedicated to skiing.
I found that cross-country skiers are not real happy when hikers go on the designated ski trails. I would be make sure that that you're not trespassing on the ski trails because they get grumpy.
Yeah, it's just a matter of taking a look at those winter maps and they define which ones are hiking and which ones are skiing.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yes, you're right.
You know, Doug and I have, you know, sort of have a good time trying to guess where the password will be located. And like Doug said, it usually is about halfway along the hike. But another thing we try to do is guess what the password might be. And out of 56 parks, we've only guessed the password once.
Heidi guessed it. I didn't.
I've hiked one of the hiking club trails and I missed the password sign. Has that happened to you at all? You've done the trail and then somewhere you missed the sign?
Yes. Which one was that?
I think it was Gooseberry.
They had it inside one of those little rest houses, and we didn't go inside the little rest house.
Oh.
So all we did was ask at the ranger station, and then they told us what it was. Or you can email too.
And I think another group was in the little rest area. So why they put it in there, I have no idea. But uh-oh, my internet connection is unstable. No, I think they're fairly good about saying, you know, I couldn't find the password. Will you give it to me? And they usually do. So at least that was our experience. I also use Map My Walk, so I always think, well, if they really want proof that I've hiked the trail, I can show them my map on Map My Walk.
Until tonight.
Does Doug have any problems finding parking lots?
Well, you know, we have not. One of the things we're always very careful about is making sure we know where the hiking trail, hiking club trail starts.
This is Alan, by the way.
Oh, hey, Alan, how you doing?
Yeah, do you have any trouble finding parking lots?
Well,
You remember?
the only time we had a problem that one time was down at Nearstrand, and
What about in the Superior Hiking Trail?
oh well, yeah. Well, you know, yeah, it depends on the time of year, I guess. So again, my you know me, Alan.
Yeah.
I'm a let's get going early in the morning kind of guy, unlike some people out there. Yeah, good to hear your voice.
I wish I had known about the hiking club trails. I've been to 31 of the state parks since May, and I'm keeping my own journal. I just copied all the, made a copy of the map, and then I did the parks and made a little journal entry, but I didn't know about the passwords. I saw the passwords, but I didn't know what they meant. So thanks for explaining that to me.
Well, you're welcome. Well, I think most of us, we don't do the hikes for the patches. We don't do it for the free night of camping. It's an intrinsic reward we get for hiking the trails, not an extrinsic one. So if you can develop your own challenge, more power to you.
We just have found it motivational.
Yeah.
To check off the parks, and it's been fun to plan the trips and plan, okay, we'll spend a night here, we'll spend a night there, and we'll do this park this day and this park that day.
I just wonder kind of how many Minnesotans have never been up to the Iron Range, or how many Minnesotans have never been up to the far northwest or far southeast or western part of the state. It's just a great way to get out and see the whole state of Minnesota. When we were out in the western side a couple of weeks ago, just looking at all the corn being harvested and the beans being harvested, and all the Donald Trump signs out there, just reminded us, we two city dwellers, that Minnesota is a big and very diverse kind of a state. And I don't think that's a bad thing for people to understand.
We enjoy the small towns we pass through, eating safely at little tiny restaurants. It's fun.
Diners, yeah.
Do you guys also do the state park passport book?
No,
No, we haven't done that, but I know there is that available.
I think that is just getting the stamp. And it doesn't require you to do anything but visit the park. So you could go take a picnic or, you know, go hike a different trail other than the hiking club trail that you want.
I have a few comments. One is I echo exploring other portions of the state. My family and I have always gone to the North Shore. We have always vacationed up there. And so just a couple of weeks ago, we went down to Rochester and did Whitewater and Frontenac. And it is, you know, it's just as beautiful down there as it is on the North Shore. We loved Whitewater. And then my daughter and I did Jay Cook Hiking Club Trail in March. And it is hikeable, but I do recommend snowshoes if there is a base of snow. We did not bring our snowshoes, and it was quite the workout.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that whole area down by Winona and Lanesboro and places. I can't remember what they call that. Something Hills, Bluff area.
Country.
It is absolutely gorgeous down there, and I agree that we always tend to point our cars north toward the North Shore, which I love as well. But boy, I tell you, it's very, very pretty down in the southeastern part of the state.